So apparently, Dustin Poirier doesn't want the fight. I'm gonna make this like short and sweet because there's not really much to say when it comes to the situation, because it's something that we see play out over and over again when it comes to MMA. Well, not even really MMA, the UFC. So, like a couple of weeks ago when it got announced, or when news broke that the UFC had this fight in the works, they wanted to make Dustin Poirier against Tony Ferguson. We all got excited. We all got happy that this fight could happen. And then a few days later, it was, they're targeting this fight for UFC 254 to co-main event with Justin Gaethje and Khabib, and that really excited me because that card is already shaping up to look like a really, really, really stacked event. Fast forward a couple of days and the fight's off. And when these situations play out, when it comes to the UFC, 99 times out of 100, the reason the fight is off is down to money, down to purses. And on this occasion, it was Dustin Poirier that he wasn't happy with what the UFC were willing to pay him. Now, look, we obviously, well, when I say we, I don't know the numbers. I don't know how much the UFC were willing to pay him. I don't know what kind of deal Dustin Poirier was after. But the reason I'm making this video here is because I watched Dana White's press conference after the Contender Series last night. And when he was asked about Dustin Poirier, he said he doesn't want the fight. He doesn't want the fight because he outpriced himself. And that kind of rubbed me up the wrong way, because Dustin Poirier is a guy that will fight anyone. He's proved it throughout the course of his career. He's literally fought anyone and anybody that they put in front of him. So it makes it hard for me as a fan of the sport to believe what Dana White is saying in that instance. And I'm not saying Dana White is a guy that only speaks the truth, and he kind of conducts himself and says things that suit him and the organization. That's what most fight promoters do, right? But I just think it rubbed me up the wrong way, because it calls Dustin Poirier's character into question. And that isn't fair after everything that he's done over the years. Like, Dustin Poirier is one guy that you can say goes into that octagon and puts everything on the line. He's one man that I genuinely can't remember a boring fight or where he played it safe just to get the win. I can't remember him holding someone up against the fence or just lying on top of someone on the ground. He's a guy that goes for the kill or be killed. So for Dana White to say he didn't really want that fight, it's just disingenuous in my opinion. Do you know what I mean? Disingenuous, whatever the right way of saying that word is. I think I've made that same mistake before in one of my videos. Like, I was so excited about this fight. I even posted about it on Instagram. Follow me at the Battle Camp, cheap plug. But do you know what I mean? Like, it's probably the one thing that I hate most about this sport, because you've got this wider kind of argument going on, you know, the wider context being that the UFC, out of all of the mainstream sports, take the largest portion of revenue in relation to its athletes. And when you know that, you kind of in your head feel like there's a little bit more bread that they could break off for Dustin Poirier to sweeten the deal for him. Dana White in that press conference said that there is another opponent in mind. Tony Ferguson hasn't accepted it yet, and that kind of obviously makes sense, because Tony Ferguson himself tweeted out saying, give Dustin Poirier what he wants, that's the guy that I want to fight. So when you've got two guys that are, it seems like they're genuinely excited to fight each other, and it's not because they both feel like it's an easy fight. It's a massive test for both of them. It's a massive test for both of them. And from Dustin Poirier's point of view, like, he has to weigh up the risk and the reward. And if the reward doesn't match up to the risk that Tony Ferguson brings, then why should he just accept a deal? Why should he have to prove how much he wants to fight by taking a value that is underneath his own valuation of him having that fight? Does that make sense? So it's just one of the most frustrating things about being an MMA fan. And I don't know what he made against someone like, I don't know, Dan Hooker. But I feel like each fight that a fighter has, I know they have a base contract, but that needs to be tweaked for each fight a fighter takes. Like, if he's fighting another, say, Dan Hooker, then yeah, fine, like, pay him a similar amount or whatever. But this is Tony Ferguson, and I'm not saying Tony Ferguson is just way, way, way better than Dan Hooker and way more dangerous for Dustin Poirier. But just off the back of the profile he has, and the fact that he has proved himself time and time again in that octagon, and he has on that crazy win streak, and people were talking about him not so long ago, before the Justin Gaethje fight, about being, this is the only guy that has any chance of beating Khabib. Like, he is a genuine threat, as we all know, but he also has a much bigger profile than a Dan Hooker. And if Dustin Poirier, who also has built his profile over the last, I'd say, 2 or 3 years, like, he's raised the bar by his own standards in terms of his, I'm going to use the word again, profile amongst MMA fans. Like, that is a main event in itself, Tony Ferguson against Dustin Poirier. Like, I listened to Ariel Helwani in DC earlier this week, and apparently, and obviously we don't know if this is 100% true, but apparently some of the stipulations around this fight were the fact that the UFC wanted this to be a backup fight for the main event. So if Khabib fell out, then Dustin would step up and fight Justin Gaethje. And if Justin Gaethje fell out, then Tony Ferguson would step up and fight Khabib. Now, if you're going to try and add that as another stipulation for the fight, then you need to be compensated accordingly. Like, if I'm a fighter and I'm going in and I might be fighting, I'm booked to fight one guy, but there's a chance I might fight someone else, and that's more risk. And with more risk should come more fucking money. Do you know what I mean? And another thing that Ariel Helwani said during that podcast or show, whatever you call it, he goes that Dustin Poirier doesn't want a huge pay increase. He just wants more money up front. He doesn't want the straight 50-50 split of this is your show money and this is your win bonus. And like I said, like, Dustin Poirier over the years has shown that he's willing to put it on the line with all of the blood, sweat and tears that he shed in that octagon. He's put it on the line time and time again, and he's a guy that doesn't need to be incentivized to fight harder with a win bonus. He's going to go out there and try and win regardless. And I think he's proved himself enough to warrant a bigger base pay, if that is what this whole argument's about. But I just think that when it comes to these situations, these fighters getting into these squabbles with the UFC, a lot of it boils down to just leverage. And on this occasion, the UFC are standing firm because I don't feel like Dustin Poirier has the leverage that he needs for them to shift. And the reason for that is, one, the card is, it seems like it's going to be a stacked card. And the UFC are probably sat there kind of weighing it up, saying to themselves, if we put this fight on the card, will it add enough pay-per-view buys for us to warrant giving Dustin Poirier the extra money that he wants? And the second thing is that the lightweight division is quite stacked, and they could slide someone else in to fight Tony Ferguson. And that's the downfall of fighters trying to negotiate with the UFC, because they're interchangeable. The UFC have structured it in a way where they can just take someone out and put someone else in, like we saw with Jorge Masvidal when he was the guy they wanted to fight Kamaru. And I know he ended up fighting him in the end, but that was down to, an injury a week before the fight. So it's just heavily weighted in the favour of the UFC, and that's just how they've structured it. And they're the organisation, and they've done a good job of growing the brand and leveraging all of the power away from the fighters. But at the same time, it's just, as a fan, it's just sad, isn't it? Because these are the fights that we want to see, and it's kind of being taken away from us, and it doesn't really feel like it's justified in terms of just the money around it. Like, it just feels like there's money in the pot that can be given to the fighter to make this happen, to make that event a glorious fucking bloodbath. You know what I mean? Like, it can be so beautiful, but it might not happen. Like, apparently they're still trying to work out a deal, and they might get done. Like, Dustin Poirier has said, I'm going to be going home in a week. It's almost like he's given the UFC a week to negotiate with him. And they might turn around and say, you know what, here, look. And he might say, okay, right, I'll take that. And if that happens, good, sweet. Hopefully they're both happy. But if it doesn't, it'll be such a shame for that fight to fall out. It'll be such a shame. Because I think Dustin Poirier has earned the right to be paid according to what he's put into the sport over the years. Yeah, and that's my thoughts on the matter. Let me know what you guys think. Don't be scared to hit the like button, comment. Let me know what you guys think. Share it with a friend if you've enjoyed it, and subscribe if you haven't already. We're nearly at 500. We're nearly there. So subscribe, man. I'll catch you guys later.